This will be the biggest spectacle that has ever happened on the planet Earth. So if you think about the fact that when people talk about Super Bowls, there's probably what, 125, 150 million people who are watching that.
Yes.
The final for this World Cup, they're anticipating over 3.7 billion. That's with a B.
Wow, what a year it's been. I can't believe it's over already. It feels like it was just yesterday that Asla and I were at a La Liga event in New York City where we decided to launch this project together. My first thought was, does the world need another podcast? While the answer is more than likely a no, it turns out that we needed this podcast and we wanted this podcast. And honestly, so do you. Soccer, football, foosball, or whatever you call it or translate to in your native language, it's the world's most popular game and is still getting more popular. While there are critics who, think the beautiful game's popularity in the US isn't there or it isn't as big as it should be at this point, there's still endless facts and data that prove that the investment dollars, viewership, social media engagement, attendance, and participation is more than ever. And that's where we come in. Asla and I aren't just two talking heads ranting and raving for sound bites and it to go viral on social media. We're two experienced storytellers, researchers, interviewers, hosts, and journalists telling you the why and the how. These are things based on fact, not feelings. It's research, it's data, and it's expertise, whether it's from us or from some of our amazing guests we've had this year. Because whether you're a lifelong football fan or someone whose interest gets piqued every 4 years when the World Cup comes around, you deserve to know. And we hope by increasing your interest that you'll tune in next week, whether it's to our podcast or Premier League mornings or the NWSL, because you're slightly more interested in this game that we all love. And again, no one is asking you to stop watching the Buffalo Bills on Sundays, but maybe before you tune into Josh Allen and co, you can tune in to the other football first. Because there's this little soccer tournament coming to the US, Canada, and Mexico next summer called the World Cup. While it certainly hasn't and won't go off without a hitch or some sort of negativity or issues, that doesn't mean that approximately for 1 month from mid June to mid July, the entire world isn't fixated on the world's greatest sport. And we couldn't be more excited to play our part in it. That's why we've had on amazing guests from Roger Bennett of Men in Blazers to Melissa Ortiz and Kyle Martino and the amazing Andres Cantor. And we can't wait to continue to tell these stories with the most influential people in soccer coming on our podcast. And, we have two more before we close out the year here. In the last episode of 2025, I met Phil and Tammy Murphy, the governor of New Jersey and the first lady at a Bundesliga event in New York City that I was helping to put on. And, Phil was on a panel with Sammy Khedira, the World Cup winner. And he couldn't be more excited to talk about soccer. And you think him as a politician, as the governor of New Jersey and all that. But, both he and his wife are so ingrained in the beautiful game. So it was a pleasure to, hear them speak on this panel. And it was even more of a pleasure to have New Jersey Governor and First Lady Phil and Tammy Murphy on the season finale of Finance of Football. I'm veteran sports journalist Michael LoRé. Welcome back to Finance of Football. As I alluded to in prior episodes, we don't have just one guest, but we have two fantastic guests for the final episode of our first season. We're joined by the governor and first lady of my home state of New Jersey, Phil and Tammy Murphy. Guys, thanks so much for joining. We appreciate it.
Thrilled to be back with you, Michael. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, love it. Thanks.
Of course, my pleasure. We met in November at a Bundesliga event in New York City. I moderated a panel, Governor, with you and Sammy Khedira on it. And a lot of people, I think, know you guys obviously through politics and your work in soccer, investors in Gotham, and being part of the host committee for New York, New Jersey with the World Cup. But you're big soccer fans. Like, this isn't something you're just getting into now. So, talk us through kind of how you guys got involved with the game. Did you play it all growing up? I know obviously your time in Germany,
Yep.
you really grew fond of the Bundesliga, but did you have any connections to the sport before that?
Yeah, I did. It probably starts with me, right?
I think so.
Um, as a young guy, I grew up in a soccer crazed town outside of Boston, which gets me no votes in New Jersey, by the way. But one of my best friends was the son of Scottish immigrants. And every Saturday morning when we were together, my buddy Gary Middleton and I would listen to like Glasgow Rangers games on a transistor radio, literally. And I got into the game. I played it through freshman year in high school, badly, I might add,
Me
badly.
too. Me too.
That's where it started. I moved to Germany before we were together uh, as part of work to Frankfurt. West Germany were the defending World Cup champions, so I started really getting into it then. We got married shortly thereafter, started to have kids, moved to Asia, then back here, and then we moved. I was the US ambassador in Germany from '09 to 13. Our kids were 12, 10, 8, and 6, and the soccer passion, I think you'd agree with me, exploded then. Exploded. So family games, which we still play mostly every summer, they all played at high levels, 3 at high levels, varsity, high school. One, our oldest guy won a national championship, D3 national championship. Still passionate, literally as we speak. There was a Champions League match going on, and I'm bouncing back and forth with the kids over this new phenom, Carl, a 17-year-old German national who plays for Bayern. So we love it. And then you add to that, we invested in Gotham, the World Cup, Hertha Berlin when we lived in Berlin. It just gets layered and layered and layered. But that's sort of would you agree that's kind of the story?
Yeah, that's the story. I would add a couple things on. First of all, we so love soccer. We plan family trips around soccer matches. So you should just know that if there's a fixture that we particularly like, we're all in, and we will take a holiday and do that. So that's one. Secondarily, two of our four still play actively in leagues. So two of them, in New York City, are playing in leagues there and are really engrossed in
High, high,
soccer,
high level,
high level.
high level.
And just because you brought up Gotham, I just want to say we just won the NWSL championship. So, I was there, of course, because we have an ownership interest in that team. And yeah, just want to
So
get
make
a
sure
shout out
get
there.
get that out there.
That's it. Is the second championship in 3 years,
Yeah,
It
4 years,
is.
I
2
think,
out
if
of
I'm not
3.
mistaken, right?
And
So
three in total.
In our third overall, we won the title back when it was a different league in 2009. So we've got 3. I think we only have 2 stars on our jersey, but that's because it's a different league.
Yeah,
But we have 3 stars in our heart.
but we also are
I was just going to
we're
say
the
that.
the one club that's been in existence for all the last 3 leagues. So we have persevered despite the headwinds, and I'm glad to see things are paying off now. Yeah, and also you should know, which I know you are well familiar. We pitched to have the United States be one of the host countries for the World Cup. We then, after we got that done, we then went back in years later and pitched for New Jersey to be one of those cities. After we got that done, we then went back in and pitched to have New Jersey, New York, New Jersey be one of the finals. So we are not one finals, the finals. So we are really thrilled.
You guys are certainly all in again from a fandom standpoint, from a investment standpoint, and then again, just all the work with the World Cup. There's so many different directions to go in this conversation. I love it. Uh, Kind of going back in time to that soccer fandom, why Hertha Berlin? Like, what drew you to that club initially?
So when we were moving over to Germany, our kids were pretty unhappy. They thought that this was going to be a terrible experience. And, so Phil and I were constantly trying to think of ways that we could really make them excited about this experience and explain that it would be additive, make new friends, whatever. And the first surprise was as we were getting ready to land in Germany,
In Berlin.
I whipped out 4 Hertha
Tricos
tricos
or
and
jerseys. Yeah.
and one for each of our children. So when we walked off of the plane in Berlin, each of them were already sporting a Hertha tricot, which that picture sits in each one of their rooms to this day.
No,
So
but we also walked into a press conference
yeah,
literally off the plane. So the first image, and it was on the cover of at least the Berlin papers, if not around Germany, were of Tammy, Phil, our dog, and 4 kids wearing Hertha jerseys, which was totally cool.
Obviously, you guys have been to a ton of soccer matches. You said you schedule, family vacations and trips around these. What is it about soccer, or maybe specifically the Bundesliga, that's so appealing to you?
Listen, we're big sports fans, so I want to say that we're watching last night the Chargers and the Eagles. I'm a big. We're all big baseball fans, basketball. So it's not we're not just soccer, but soccer is sort of got the as they say in Latin, the primus inter pares. And I wouldn't limit the comments to the Bundesliga. The passion around soccer is just unmatched when you're in the stadium.
Yeah.
Um, it's just unmatched. I mean, the singing, the chanting, the electricity, there's just nothing like it,
As much as Americans are fans of football, let's talk about American football for a second,
which we love.
which we love, and many people do. The fan dedication in Europe, especially in Europe, I can speak to Europe very easily,
Yep.
whether it's the UK or France or Italy, Germany,
Certainly Germany.
Spain. I mean, in Germany, it's unrivaled, it's unmatched, and it kind of just it envelops you. It's so exciting to be in the stadia and to see these teams play. Sometimes it can be dangerous, but it's largely all for fun, and it's just it's in the bloodline. I mean, if somebody is a fan of X team, like Hertha and Union, if somebody's a fan of Union, the chances of their equally being a fan of Hertha are almost zero.
Yeah.
And same, and you pick your team. So there's a real element to it.
It's also, this, and everyone who watches this knows, it's a flow sport. It's not a start and stop sport. So as much as we love football, American football or baseball, for instance, those are stop and start sports. Soccer's a flow sport. So the whole momentum stays at a high pitch throughout each of the halves. There's nothing like the sort of respite you feel when halftime comes around in a soccer match. Everybody you could just feel everybody, oh, okay, God, we could now take 15 minutes and collect ourselves, because you're at high C in the first half, and then if it's possible to be higher than high C, you're at that in the second half.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, that's my favorite thing about soccer as well too, right? It's just the constant, action. Even the ball goes out of the, over the touch line, the clock is still running and all of
Yeah,
that.
and
But
it's a quick turnaround, right?
exactly, yeah. But that's going to change a little bit with the World Cup. I think they just announced, 3-minute water breaks in each half. But it's going to be hot, right? It's hot and humid in the United
Yeah.
States, most parts, in
I
the
assume
summer.
that's a good
So
opportunity to throw some commercials on and raise a few shekels as well, right?
exactly, you read my you read my mind. I love it. I'm glad I'm not the only one who noticed that. So thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. I love that.
Before we get into the World Cup, and we touched on this a bit before too, shifting gears from Europe and Germany now to our own backyard here in New York and New Jersey, Gotham FC. We mentioned them at the start of this conversation. You two were part of the founding owners and investors of this club. So why was that something that you wanted to be involved in the start, especially given some of that volatility that you mentioned with women's soccer, where it's been a couple of different leagues. Now we finally have the NWSL. So what was it so appealing about, being part of Gotham, especially from the start?
Um, we have 3 boys and a girl. They all play. Um, and we never, it's not like we expected our daughter to grow up and be a professional soccer player. That wasn't the point. But the point was this, and it was a fairness question, honestly. You got the following reality. American men, national team, top 20, top 25, about ranking wise where they are today. With MLS, which had started in 95 or 96, so 10 plus years old, beginning to get some momentum, nothing like it is today. Then you look at the women, again, this is back in '07, say, number 1 in the world, or top 3 consistently as we are today, but no professional league. So when you're a young girl, as our daughter was, and she's looking up and let's turn the TV on to find a good professional women's game, there wasn't. So as a fairness matter, that sort of gnawed at us. And then some folks came around and said, we're thinking about starting. There was a W League we essentially bought a W League team and jacked it up to what was then the new league. And we said, you know what, it feels like the right thing to do. Not the right financial thing to do, trust me, but the right thing to do is a sort of a moral, this particularly in a country with Title IX, which had transformed college sports, which frankly was the biggest reason I believe that we became the number one women's soccer team in the world, and that we're so good in women's sports. It didn't extend to the professional ranks. We say, you know what, that's not right.
Talk about the journey and the growth of the NWSL and women's soccer, again, being two of the investors of Gotham from the early get-go. Now almost 20 years later, how much it's really grown. And I know you mentioned it wasn't for financial gain at the start, but it's got to be looking like a pretty good investment now.
Like many things in women's sports, and you've seen it across the spectrum, women's sports have not been invested in historically. And it's only now, I'd say in the last 5 to 10 years, maybe 5 years even, that people are starting to wake up and say, "Hey, there's opportunities here, and we should be investing in women's sports and uplifting women's sports." And I would also say that because of the attraction that has had, we've now got Jessica Berman, who is our commissioner. We've really made great strides, and in many capacities, we've emulated the men's sports to make sure that we are providing the same structure, the same opportunities for the women. But it's definitely a hotter ticket now than it was when we got involved in this nearly 20 years ago.
No question about it. The table stakes have also gone up. So you're getting now deeper pocketed owners who are, as I say, raising the stakes. But that's the way professional sports leagues are and should be. Don Garber is a very close personal friend of ours for 25 years or more. And, we've studied the MLS journey very closely. And that's probably the one that is the closest to what the NWSL, I think we'd agree, is going through now. WNBA, by the way, is doing really well. I mean, they've got apparently some collective bargaining challenges, which is, again, not unique to a younger growing league. But it's finally, at long last, the women are getting a shot at similar opportunities. Still not there yet in terms of earnings power, for sure. You're seeing a big battle right now between the European soccer or football leagues and the NWSL as it relates to salary cap versus no cap and whatnot. And at the end of the day, if there's tension to try to hire high quality female athletes, I know one thing: the winner is the female athlete, and that's the way it should be.
We've talked, Bundesliga and German soccer. We've talked women's soccer. Let's talk World Cup. By the time this episode comes out in about mid-December, we're going to turn the page to 2026, and it's officially going to be a World Cup year. New York, New Jersey, MetLife Stadium. Granted, we can't really call it that, at least according to FIFA. But it's going to host the World Cup final, which is so amazing, being in your backyard, my backyard. So what does it mean to have the 2026 FIFA World Cup final in East Rutherford, New Jersey? And Tammy, obviously you're chair of the board of the host committee. So, would just love your guys' thoughts.
I think that the summary point here is that this will be the biggest spectacle that has ever happened on the planet Earth. So if you think about the fact that when people talk about Super Bowls, football games, there's probably 125, 150 million people who are watching that.
Yes.
The final for this World Cup, which is in an expanded field, there's 48 nationalities, 48 teams that are going to be included. They're anticipating over 3.7 billion. That's with a B. People will watch that. And just the draw, which we attended this past week at the Kennedy Center in Washington, 500 million people were watching the draw, just to put a little fine point on it. So this is to be able to host this in our backyard, as you say, Michael, yours as well. It's humbling. It's so exciting. And there are so many facets, the fan fest, the fan zones, the stadium, everything that's coming together is just so exciting.
How many visitors to the region between New York and New Jersey, you guys guessing?
We're guessing 1 to 2 million people easily. And then on top of that, we have one of the, I think only 3 in the country, fan zones in Liberty State Park. By the way, backdrop of Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island in New York City. 22 huge screens to watch games together, and eating and all sorts of rides and everything. And
I'm a Murphy. I have to inquire. Are there any bars?
yes.
Okay, just checking. Just kind of shape that box.
There's going to be music and everything, but that one fan zone will accommodate up to 50,000 people at any given moment. And by the way, I happen to know on good sources that the fan zone tickets, which are I think they're like $10 each. They're nothing. That they're going to be available very soon. So maybe if this is coming out in mid-December, maybe people are going to want to look into that for stocking stuffers, or I don't know, something
Okay,
out there.
so keep that in mind, everybody.
I love it. I love it. Great plug, and certainly a lot cheaper than getting an actual ticket to a match. And finally, before I let you guys go, I know you got a lot of things going on. We could sit here and talk about soccer forever. How do you hope, and this might be the $1 billion question, how do you hope soccer continues to grow or evolve after this tournament? We've talked about how invested you guys are personally and professionally in the sport. So what do you want to see as the result of the 2026 FIFA World Cup?
It's the pitch that'll get built in Passaic City, New Jersey, or in the Bronx, that otherwise wouldn't have gotten that pitch, or the little boy or the little girl who will be fascinated by something they see. And the great thing about soccer is we always say, all it takes is a ball, who just kicks that ball for the first time. So I think there's going to be enormous updraft of participation in the sport, access to the sport in communities and in persons, for whatever reason, heretofore have not had that access or appetite.
Given the matches that we have drawn, and given the deep diaspora that we have across the New York, New Jersey area, I think that there will be so much enthusiasm, and that will absolutely carry on beyond this tournament. And that's what it's about. It's about bringing communities together. And I think in the times that we're in at present, it's also really important to be able to see people who might not be our normal allies, who might be playing in the United States, and welcomed and cheered and rooted for. And it's really important for just our world to see that soccer does bridge a lot of divides, and I think that will be a great outcome from this cup.
Yeah, I think that's why we call it the beautiful game, right? I know there's so much that's around it in terms of politics and other issues, but I think when you just look at soccer or football or whatever you want to call it, wherever country you're from, it's a beautiful game for a reason, because exactly what you two just said. So I couldn't have
Amen.
thought of a better way to end this episode. Thank you guys again so much. This was amazing.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
It's funny. It takes a village doesn't just apply to raising children. It also applies to podcasts. And we at Finance of Football couldn't be where we are without the help of our village. First, I'd like to thank and give a shout out to my co-host, Asla, who obviously isn't here because she just had a baby. She's a new mom. Congratulations, Asla and Jonathan. We look forward to welcoming you back on the show after the new year. We started this and we had to ask, family and friends for help because we only knew so much. So big shout out to Ethan, Lewis, Essen, and everyone else who helped us get Finance of Football off the ground to start this year. Your support and contributions haven't gone unappreciated. We've also been fortunate to start working with some new friends at Frequency Machine who have helped take Finance of Football to the next level. That's editing, it's social media. You guys make us sound great, look even better, and we couldn't be more grateful. So thank you, Stacy, Avi, Ryan, Julian, Neil, and everybody else behind the scenes. Thank you all for the support. We look forward to an even more exciting 2026 as we turn the calendar to the new year, to a World Cup year. We can't wait. Happy New Year.
Finance of Football comes to you from the Frequency Machine Podcast Network. Hit us up on social on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for more football business and our enlightened opinions. This episode was produced by co-hosts Asa Pellet and Michael LoRé. It was edited by Ryan Hammond. Mixing and mastering by Julian Kwasniewski. Our theme music is by Hatamet Tsunami. Our show is executive produced by Stacy Book and Avi Klajansky for Frequency Machine. Find more about Finance of Football at frequencymachine.com. Follow us on YouTube at Finance of Football and listen anywhere you get podcasts. Please like and subscribe. Help us reach more people. We love you for it.